So we'll also talk about, well, a little bit of fun, as I normally do, just chuck something in that's random. So I won't talk about that yet. And obviously, we'll look at, as we always do on FootMob, last results, the last sort of 5 games for both sides, and then the predicted lineup. And then, as always, the big one, the score prediction. And what's the score going to be? So let's get into things anyway. So, kicking off with a bit of a recap. So obviously, don't want to depress everybody, but as we know, we lost against Newcastle at their place. We haven't won there since 2020. And obviously, I predicted a draw, but unfortunately, we lost to 10 men, Newcastle. Sorry to bring it up, people, but that's the case. So very disappointing. Obviously, ruined the chance of getting that sort of 5 in a row and get rid of that guy with the hair and the haircut. So first comment coming in from SJG, ride or die. Evening, Dan, evening. So we're just going to get into things, as I was saying, do a bit of a recap on Newcastle game. Lost to 10 men. It was 0-0 when they went down to 10 men. They've got a penalty pretty much early after that, after Gordon had sort of advanced into the box. Bruno, for some reason, takes him down. I don't know why we're sort of panicking when we've got more men than them. But anyway, hoping that we could at least get a draw in that game. But we did get one. But like I say, we end up losing 2-1 to that. If you want to call it a wonder strike by Osula towards the end. But anyway, it was definitely preventable. But unfortunately, Malacia, never want to see you again. Nothing personal. Just don't want to see you playing for our team ever again. So, enough of that. That's Newcastle. That's the past. Let's see if we can get back to winning ways. And like I say, as the title says there, can Carrick bounce back? And what do people think? Do we think that Carrick can bounce back? Anybody that's here, anybody that's watching, or put your comments in afterwards if you don't get to watch it live. Because obviously this is just a almost random thing. I've never really gone live before on a Friday as a preview. Normally do it pre-recorded, but I thought, give it a try, do something different. So let's get into the presser then. One of those, though, with a presser, the press conference, where I don't know if you've ever had it yourselves, when you're speaking to somebody and it feels like they've spoken, but you don't really know what's being said. Nothing really has been said of any substance. It felt like there was certain questions that weren't going to get the answers that they probably wanted. And again, this is a journalist thing. Yes, and as SJG is saying here, if Malacia was to come on as a sub, they're switching off, and I'd be with you, because that will ruin it. And for any mothers watching it on there, it's going to ruin your Mother's Day if you've got Malacia coming on. But yeah, back to the press then, like I was saying, if you've ever spoken to somebody at work and they've given you a call or you're in a meeting and someone's just talking but not really saying very much, that's what it felt like in the press conference that I watched today, the part 1 anyway. There might be something more interesting in part 2, but as Manchester United always do, they do this embargo thing, they do this thing where they let you see part 2 the next day, the following morning or whatever it is. It's crazy. So in terms of what was said then, I mean, if you want to see the key things are, looks like Mason Mount's come back, he's back in training, probably in contention for this game potentially. So he may be in the squad, maybe on the bench, I would have thought. He's not going to start after all that time that he's been out. Do we miss him though? What do you guys think? Anybody that's watching, or if you watch this later on, as I say, still put your comments in. Do you think he's going to make a difference? Do you think we need him for the running? Do you think we need him to get us over the line, to get one of the European spots? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure how he's going to fit in to this current United side. I could see his place under Amorim and that formation where you've got the 2 10s, but I'm not so sure where Mount fits in this squad now. Because obviously, even Cunha plays well, really like Cunha, but in terms of one of the wide men, he's not really a wide man, so he comes inside. I suppose Mount could do the same, but I wouldn't be putting Mount ahead of Cunha at the moment anyway. But again, tell us what you think in regards to if you think Mount's going to make any difference. We'll see. Mount a comeback. I don't know. Other things that were said, obviously, there's the sort of talking about the upcoming game against Villa and what sort of Carrick thought about that. He basically said he was excited about the game. I think you would expect, if these players give a damn, that they'd be chomping at the bit for the next game after that loss. I think at any level, when you played any sport, when you've lost, you want to get back out there again and avenge that loss and get back on the winning streak. So you can see that they'll be chomping at the bit for that. So again, not much said there, really. Then there was just a question about JJ Gabriel. So that's one of the youth team players that are coming through. A lot of hype around JJ Gabriel. And I've said before, like what I've seen from him, however, we don't want to get too carried away. And it's been a while since we've had a really good youth player that sustained that performance and really took off. And some may say the last person to do that, the last player to do that, might be Rashford, possibly. It's hard to sort of think of another one that's sort of come through and really maintained that performance. Obviously, Mano has come through that system, but he's had that drop off. Obviously, Amorim didn't fancy him, so it's kind of knocked his sort of progression to a certain extent. And as I've always said, I think some of these players have been let down because the coaching hasn't been there in many occasions, many occurrences. So we just need to nurture the talent that we've got coming through. I don't think it's as good as it has been over the years. And obviously, you're always going to compare it to the class of 92 sort of thing. And you're not going to replicate that, to be fair. So, just checking the comments there. Oh, we've got Paul in the house. We definitely need him. Our legs were not good enough against 10 men. Yeah, and I think if we're taking it back to Mount, what you're saying there, I think Mount has got a good engine on him. He presses really well. That's one thing about Mount. I think he's really good at that. I think he obviously got that from Chelsea, where he pressed really well. Came in, Amorim loved him because he presses so well. So you can sort of see that, and it is a miss in that sense. Obviously, you want a squad, and I think sometimes it's a weird one because it's not just us that does it, but I don't know if you've noticed, there's times you look at the squad, the starting lineups, and then you look at the bench, and there's like 2 goalkeepers on the bench, and it's like, have we not got enough players? What's going on here? But we're not the only ones that do that. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it's some sort of ruling. I don't get it, but I suppose there is more subs these days, so that might be one of the reasons. But we definitely need to beef up that squad. We definitely need as much players as we can to get us through to the finishing line. And obviously, we've had a few injuries. So, we need people to slot in. So just to finish up then on the press conference, there was a bit on Mazraoui. Looks like he's had quite a quick recovery, to be fair, because I saw him limping out. There was a couple of shots of him limping out of the stadium, down the tunnel, that sort of thing. And it looks like he's recovered. Back in training, so he's probably going to be back in contention, so that's good news. Again, I don't know if he's played that well for a while, to be honest, but I've said it before in previous videos. I think he's been impacted by just being moved around the back line, so he just needs to slot into one position and start to get his form back for me. And another comment from Paul there. We've been unlocked now, so it's fit for Mount as must for me. Sorry. Yeah, I get that. And obviously, like with anybody, it's not. We've all got our own opinions, haven't we? We all see things in our ways. I've always said that I didn't understand the signing of Mount when it first happened. I think that was under Eric Ten Hag, wasn't it? I didn't really understand the signing, if I'm honest, but only because I didn't know where he was going to fit and whether he was the position that we needed at the time. However, it's just a shame, though, that he's been quite injury prone since coming to us. And I think if it wasn't for that, I think he would have been. I'm not saying he was going to fulfill the number 7 shirt, because that's one thing I'd say. I don't think he should have the number 7 shirt. But I think he would have been quite maybe a key play for us if he could have stayed fit. because I think there's been times, especially when he hit a bit of scoring run, he can definitely get involved in assists and scoring. He can be a real asset. And there's other players that I would prefer him to play before them. So, for example, Xerxes. I know Xerxes meant to be a striker, but he often comes on and I don't know where he plays sometimes. So I just think it would be nice to see Mount come in. But again, with the injuries, it's been quite difficult for him, to be fair. So it's been really unfortunate for him. I don't know what's going to happen in the summer. I don't know what these Ineos boys are going to do, as we call them. Probably shouldn't call them Ineos boys, really, because they are part of Manchester United. But it's your Wilcoxes, your Baradas. I think Barada coming from City and the way that they operate, they will be thinking about moving Mount on because of, again, do you get him on the pitch much? Problem is, we paid quite a bit for him, so do we get that money back? So it's another story. So there was a mention of Morgan Rogers, and purely because is the player for Villa who scores all the wonder strikes. He sort of did the dirty on Euro in that last game. He played under Carrick at Middlesbrough, so he sort of came through the ranks there. So Carrick knows quite a lot about him. But again, what's Carrick going to say? You ask him the question about Rodgers. Obviously, he's going to say he's a good player. He's not going to say anything else. He's not going to disrespect a player that he's managed and he's coming up against in the next match. So again, it's one of those questions from the journalist where it's like, okay, what do you want me to say to that? There's better questions you can ask in these press conferences. I just often find these press conferences not a waste of time, because often there is some key information that comes out of them, but I just don't know what the journalists are thinking sometimes. And a lot of the times they are asking the same questions as each other. And you don't, as a fan, sitting there watching the press conference, you want to hear about what, again, you do want to hear about what Carrick thinks about the team that's coming up, fair play. But you want to hear more about the players, how they're doing in training, who's coming back from injury, how long they're going to be. And that's another thing we don't really get as well, is a proper update on injuries and how soon players are coming back. So there's certain information that you want to hear, and the journalists just seem to ask stupid questions a lot of the time. But anyway, we move on. And then lastly, there was a question on Sancho. And again, what do you want him to say? Do you want him to say, yeah, we bought Sancho, it was an absolute flop, we got rid of him to Villa, well, he's still on loan at Villa, so he won't be playing in this game anyway, and he's crap, and we wouldn't have him back? He's not going to say that. Even if he thought that, he's not going to say that. Of course he's going to say, the fellow English player, he's going to say he's a talent, which he is, or was, when he was at Dortmund. We were all, most of us, excited when we bought Sancho, because we felt that if he could replicate that ability, that form that he was showing at Dortmund, it'd be an absolute star for Manchester United, and it's a massive shame that he couldn't replicate that. But he's not going to say anything derogatory about Sancho. So again, you're trying to evoke a reaction about something. And if I do need to mention it, there's been that thing about Scholes and what he'd said, and it came across to most of us that Scholes is basically saying, yeah, Carrick, you know, like a sarcastic sort of thing. Yeah, Carrick is some manager into. He's been playing crap for the last 4 games. He's lost there against Newcastle, and then he puts a love heart with Tonali. So it looks like he's been negative against Carrick and then sort of being positive about Tonali and saying, we need a player like Tonali. And he has said that before. Obviously, he's backtracked. He's removed that post, I believe, and he's tried to say that he was trying to say something completely different, and it was more of a compliment to Carrick, but none of us read it like that, I must admit. So, again, as I was saying earlier, tell us what you think about things. Did anybody watch the press conference? What were your thoughts? But we're going to move on now to just a quick section here on. So, again, just really quickly, I was disappointed to lose against Newcastle, especially when Newcastle had 10 men. These things do happen. It's just a shame it's happened for the second time this season so far. And hopefully that doesn't happen again. And at one stage, you sort of, and I still say it, Carrick at the wheel and all that sort of stuff. We talk about interims, or new coach bouncers, if it's a thing. I'm not going to go into that today, but if you do watch Stretford Paddock or Stephen Howson, he had an interesting take on that, and he believes there isn't anything such as new coach bounce. He doesn't believe that exists. And he had a good point. If anybody's watched that, he had a good point. I haven't got time to go into that today, but I always talk about new coach bounce. It does feel like it's a thing because often a new coach comes in with new vigour, new energy, different plans, and the players sort of take to that and have a bit of a lift. And that's equivalent to a new coach bounce. But again, I'm open to different opinions on that. So, talking about coach bouncers or not, let's just have a quick look at this. Does everybody know this guy at Spurs? It's always nice to take a bit of fun out of Spurs. Igor Tudor. And I don't know how many losses that is in a row now. Is it some like 4 losses in a row? They lost this week in Europe. I'm not going to laugh at this next thing because I do feel for the guy. Although I don't feel for Spurs because we've got this guy called Onana. And he is, for people out there who agree with me, is a shit keeper. I don't know if this guy's shit, but unfortunate for him, he started against Atletico Madrid, and if anybody's seen it, he slipped a couple of times, and they've scored from it. And he can even almost looks like there's a smirk on this guy's face as he's gone past him and scored. I don't know if that was like the second goal, was it? And then he got substituted pretty much straight afterwards to bring the keeper on that he dropped. So they ended up losing, 5-2 or something like that in the end. Very interesting game. Didn't watch the game in full, but I did see the highlights. And like I say, it's sad for this guy. He's only a young keeper, so hopefully he's going to be okay. But this guy, as you can see his face, not great for Spurs, that. So, next thing, just going to quickly do before we start looking at the past results of both teams and a bit of a prediction of the starting lineup. And again, as we get to that, put your comments in. Who do you think we should start? But we'll talk about that in a second. I just want to do a really quick part now in regards to, because it always seems to be hotting up this. It might be too early to talk about it, but it's always going to be a talking point up until they announce it. But let's have a look at some candidates for the next coach. So obviously we've got Carrick there, who's the interim at the moment. Do you think we should keep Carrick? Anybody that's watching? Anybody that wants to put comments in afterwards, feel free. Do you think we should keep Carrick with the current form? We've just seen there how interims can go wrong. In our case, our interim's been pretty good. So have things changed now? What I was saying is that I want an elite coach. Talked about Enrique, for example, Ancelotti's of the world, Tuchel's of the world. Both Tuchel and Ancelotti don't look to be available at the moment and may not be. It will depend on how the World Cup goes, but they're both looking like they're signing extensions to their contracts for the countries that they're managing at the minute. So Tuchel with England and Ancelotti with Brazil. Then you've got Emery there. Now, he was up there in my list before Carrick came in, because the thing, didn't do particularly well at Arsenal, or that's what Arsenal will tell us. Obviously didn't win anything there, but when he's gone away, he's won things in Spain. I think he won a couple of cups for PSG, I believe. He's a seasoned coach. He knows the Premier League. This is his second stint in the Premier League. He is a winner to a certain extent. He has won cups. He is that sort of tier below the elite, I would say. So again, anybody watching, what do you think? Would you go for Emery? Would you stick with Carrick? Just quickly looking at a couple more candidates. So we've got here Areola, who was at Bournemouth. Seemed to have sort of slid a little bit, but the only problem is, I suppose, with some of these coaches, they've started off well when they've had a decent team. Bournemouth have been a little bit stripped. I think Liverpool have taken some of their players, and then more recently, Semenyo's gone to City. So that's going to hamper you quite some bit. Then you've got Glasner there. Since he's quit, or since he said he's leaving in the summer, Crystal Palace kind of slid down a little bit as well, and not quite the same as they have been. So again, would you take any of these two? But again, both got some experience in the Premier League, haven't Glasner's won something though. Areola, I'm not sure about Areola if he's won something in his past clubs. Nothing at Bournemouth so far. Glasner has won, is it a couple of cups now at Crystal Palace? He's beat City in the final. Only problem with Glasner, it's that three at the back system again. Do we want to go back there? I've got PTSD, not for me. And just looking at the comments there from Paul. So as long as we don't mention, Southgate triggers me, so I don't like to mention that waistcoat wearing you-know-what. Another comment there from Paul. Too often his name gets linked with us, and that's the thing. And we don't want Southgate. I mean, I don't think he was a good coach for England. I know they got to a couple of finals or so, but he balled it. They should have beat, was it Italy that they had in one of those finals? Instead of going for it, he's just shutting up shop. And you've got to go for it. You've got to be expansive. You've got to be excited. You've got to be how you would expect an English team to play. And a lot of the players that are in that England squad are used to playing for exciting teams. You've got good players from Arsenal there, Manchester United, you name it, City. You go for it. You've got the players there. You've got a lot of flair there. You had Saka's, your Fodens, your Rashfords, your Sanchos. You had loads of players there to go for the jugular. And that isn't my style of that sort of negative football. So hopefully, as everybody thought, Steve Holland isn't that sort of make way for his mate to come in and join him. Hopefully that is not the case, because that, as I said before, I'd never be a manager out straight away, although I was probably close to saying Moyes out when he first came in. But Southgate, I can't have Southgate. As Paul's saying here, if we can't have a world class, we might as well stick with Carrick. Yeah, so I think I'm the same now. I've gone up and down, but again, I'm a fan, emotional. We go with the times, we go with what happens. When Carrick's on that sort of run and he's got 4 wins in a row, it's like, how can we see past him? And I think that's right. As a fan, watching the game, being quite entertained, you can say, quite happy with definitely happy with the results, happy with some of the performances as well. I keep going back to the City game and the Arsenal game. Fulham wasn't too bad. I know Spurs was a little bit of a dip, and then it sort of dipped after that. But you're going to get that. You're not going to play beautiful football all the way through. And it's been a bit of a funny season this season anyway, because Arsenal have been known of playing quite attractive football. This season, it's been, as people that I go live with, so David Speaks Football, for example, Alex for the Football Brotherhood, they will say that Arsenal are like a rugby club now. And there's a lot of stuff happening where it's just throw-ins and long throws and just jostling in the box, and it's not nice to look at. Crowding the goalkeeper to score a goal. It's all very desperate. You've got some nice players there, but you're still playing rugby. So it's just been a funny season anyway. I don't think City have played particularly that well this season either. Liverpool had a sort of barnstorming performances last season. Pretty good under Klopp, obviously, before he went. They haven't been great this season. So there hasn't been particularly beautiful football this season. So should we hold Carrick to account when it's not happening elsewhere? Pep is the guy. Pep is the guy that paints pretty pictures on the pitch. I haven't seen it this season. I don't know if you guys have, but I haven't seen it this season. Now, obviously, I don't want to come across like I'm contradicting myself, because I have been a little bit sort of frustrated with the way we've played at times. But when you calm down and the last game's happened, over a week ago, you can sort of sit back and think, okay, we've not played particularly great, but we've got results. We're third in the table. We've caught Villa, as I said we would. Not saying that we're going to sustain that, but we definitely did the objective that I thought we'd do. Probably sooner than I thought, to be fair. And you think all of that, and we're in a much healthier position, which is great. But then you look across the place, you think Arsenal, like I've said, not particularly great football. City, not particularly great football. Liverpool, not particularly great football. Chelsea, not particularly great football. So can we only home in on Carrick and say, why aren't you playing nice football when nobody else is? I don't know. What do you guys think? So let's look at some more comments here. Hopefully he takes us back to winning ways. Yeah, that's from Paul there about Carrick, I presume. SJG, if you fucking Southgate comes Like I have said before, I am done. Yeah, and like I say, I'm on the exact same page. I could not cope with Southgate, I'm afraid, and I want to support the team. Manchester United through and through, but one thing I can't do is have any commitment to Southgate. I can't do it. And I think and I hope it's just a lot of the time a wind up. I hope. But anyway, we'll move on to the last couple of candidates. And luckily, in the last two, Southgate hasn't come up. And now, and what I should have said is this is coming from Mark Ogden, I believe it is, and he works for the ESPN. Good journalist. He's got an in with the club. He will have spoken to someone from Manchester United about just their list. They would have given him a few names, I presume. Or sometimes what the journalists do, they'll say, confirm or deny in a sense. It's like if they strongly say, no, they won't put it in. If they don't answer or they don't sort of deny it, they generally roll with the stories, how the journalists work. They normally verify it with a couple of, or maybe even three sources before they go with it. It's gone out in the ESPN publications here. But he is credible, Mark Ogden. So he's saying for the last sort of two candidates is De Zerbi and Nagelsmann. So De Zerbi, he sort of quit early on Marseille in France. They were doing okay when he was focused on Marseille. I think he's had a little bit of a falling out with the board there, I believe. Bit of a hothead. I think is he Italian? I'm not sure what he is, De Zerbi. But anyway, he's a hothead. I don't think he sort of ended his things with Brighton in a bad way, to be fair to him, but he is known for being quite headstrong. So anyway, he's got himself out of Marseille. He's a free candidate at the moment. He's waiting for a job, I believe. Don't know who. Be interesting. And then Nagelsmann. And obviously he is coaching Germany. And obviously he'll be taking them into the World Cup. So we'll see how that goes. He could be a candidate as well. I think he's up for club management again, Nagelsmann. He was at Bayern Munich before. I think they'll let him go because Bayern Munich can be a bit funny like that anyway. He's a decent coach, but for me, he's what I call a hipster. And I'm not interested in hipster coaches. I think De Zerbi's a hipster as well. I think just going really quickly back through the options, don't want Glasner because of the three at the back. Areola, liked him for a certain period, but he seems to have dipped at Bournemouth. Is he ready for the step up? I'm not so sure. And then obviously, these are the two here. Carrick, as Paul was saying earlier, if there isn't a world-class elite coach that's available, what's the harm with going with Carrick for a bit, see how it goes? If it doesn't go well, guess what we can do? Guess what we've been doing since Fergie anyway? Get rid. If it doesn't go well, you get rid. And what do? You get somebody else in. Nothing wrong with that. Now, I appreciate it kind of puts you back a little bit, and I've talked about rebuilds, and I'm sick of hearing the word rebuild, but we will need one to a certain extent. But again, there has to be a balance, doesn't there, where you've got to allow the coach to get involved with the building of the squad, and that sort of trust comes over time. I appreciate that. And the modern way of doing it, as we all know, and I don't know which way is the best way, because obviously you can't really think about Fergie because there's not another Fergie, and there probably never will be. But these elite, these legendary coaches, managers will get involved in recruitment. These days, the club likes to do that. So if we're going down that line, then it doesn't really matter if you put Carrick in and it doesn't work because you're buying players for the club, as they say. So that means when the next coach comes in, you will use these players because it meets with our philosophy. It meets with the way we want to play football. So if we want to bring back how we've played, and I strongly believe we've got to have some form of identity of the past where it's, and I keep saying this, where it's wide men down the wings, beating players, facing up to full-backs, getting the ball crossed in, 1-2s outside the box, quick movement, fast breaks, you name it. All the stuff that we used to with Ryan Giggs flying down the wing, or Ronaldo flying down the wing, or Beckham whipping crosses in. On the heads of your Solskjaers, on your heads of your Van Nistelrooys, on the heads of your Andy Coles, your Dwight Yorks, you name it, Sheringhams. That sort of thing. Now, if we're wanting that, then that means you buy the players that can do that, and then the coach comes in to utilise that. And as I've said before, there is two ways to look at things, isn't there? Like we've looked at other things and said there's two ways to look at things. And I think we've got too consumed and copied too much of other teams. So Pep, I mean, you can't not like the football is played over the years, but unfortunately, everybody's trying to copy off him. So what he did at Barcelona, I don't think he's quite replicated Barcelona at City. It was close at times, in the earlier times, but nice football, get all that. Got his philosophy from Johan Cruyff, but sort of just did Johan Cruyff on steroids. And then everybody else is trying to copy off that for me. And I think there's definitely that space now to sort of migrate back to how things were, where you've got a man manager that's in place like a Fergie. You get a couple of coaches in that you sort of first team coaches that can put some basics into your to players and coaching, but your philosophy and your management and your guidance comes from that manager that's got strong principles that aligns with Manchester United as it has done in the past. And I think there's room for that. And what was very interesting, and I didn't come up with this, it's just thinking about and listening to other people talk about it, and I fully agree with it, is you look at who has done well over the years in this league, and obviously Fergie. You look at the fact that it wasn't anything overly complicated, but there was a style to it, there's a philosophy to it, and it was successful. Who else is very successful in the world of football? Real Madrid. And who that you can think of more recently that have done really well, and especially after listening to that interview with Bale on Stick to Football, and Bale confirmed, because I think everybody, including myself, would be sat here thinking the way that Zidane played as a player, beautiful player. For those who know who Zinedine Zidane is, French player, played for Real Madrid, played for Juve as well, then coached Real Madrid. 3 straight Champions Leagues that he won, and a league or two. Massive success in a short period of time. I would be sat here thinking the way he plays football, the way he looks, I would assume this is a master tactician. Master tactician is on that level of Pep, for example. And then Bale goes on to Stick to Football, and he just says it how it is. Zidane didn't really do anything. As in tactics. He was just a good man manager. He was respected. He allowed you to play your game. And he was actually more simplified than Ancelotti. And we all know that Ancelotti isn't obsessed with tactics. He goes into clubs, as he did at Everton as well, because Everton played decent football and did all right when he was there. But he goes into clubs. He was at Chelsea as well, wasn't he? Goes into clubs, he sees what players are there, and he allows them to play. And that's what you want, really, is someone that can guide players, can see talent coming through, can pick the right teams, but has that aura, has that respect, and allows players to play their game and work things out for themselves. And when things are going wrong, you can then make a substitution that's going to change things. You may have a coach on the side that just does a slight tactical tweak just to change something. Nothing wrong with that. But do we need someone that's fully obsessed with tactics and gets everybody confused? Don't know. What do you guys think? But anyway, don't want to spend too much time on the coaches. So, as always, just want to have a quick look at FootMob so that we can have a look at the past results and then see how we've fared for both teams. And then we'll have a quick look at a predicted lineup. And then you guys can join in terms of who you would start in certain key areas. There's going to be certain positions where it's a no-brainer, but it might be just one or two things where we might be in a bit of debate about who should start. So just before I get into that, just make sure I've caught up on all the comments there. So comment there from Paul. No good, you can't argue with our board. Ask Ruben. Yeah, you can't argue with the board. That's the one great thing about Carrick, he's calm coach and doesn't make rash decisions. And that's what we need, definitely. And obviously, what you don't want, though, is too much of a yes man. But you do want someone that's got that good balance that can work with our board but when really needs to, can put his foot down, and also the same with the players. And I think that will work really well. So let's just quickly share. Let's show this now on FootMob. So really quickly then, we are on the left-hand side as the home team. Then you've got Villa on the right-hand side. I'm just going to have a quick look at the past 5 games, last 5 games. So on the left-hand side there, we beat Tottenham 2-0. We drew against West Ham. Seems like such a long time ago, some of these results. Everton, we beat them. Got our own back on them. Then we beat Palace, so we did the double over them. And then we lost against Newcastle, 10 men. On the right-hand side then, Villa. So they lost against Newcastle. Then they drew with Leeds. A tough team to play, Leeds, to be fair, towards the end of this season here. Then they lost against Wolves. I mean, Wolves have been on a resurgence, even though they're probably still going to go down. They've been getting a few scalps, to be fair. And it's actually been good for us because is it Liverpool to beat? I think it was, and or drew, one of the two. They've taken points off Liverpool anyway. They've taken some good points off Villa. Villa lost to Chelsea, and then they've beat Lille in Europe. So that's the last 5 games. So we'll just really quickly move up to now sort of predicted lineups, just quickly there, just to see players that are out. So as we know, we've got Martinez out. Big miss for me. It's saying there mid-April. He seemed to have a bit of a setback because 1 minute he was back in training and it looked like he was coming back, and I think he's had a bit of a setback in training. They've got De Ligt. He's got a back issue. I don't know how bad that is, but they're letting it take its time. And then Dorgu, as we know, is out and being a big miss as well. On their side, their midfield was depleted, but I think they have got McGinn back, which will be a boost for them. Tillemans, a good player, is out. Normally plays really well against us, so that's good not to see him playing. Kamara, another decent midfielder there. Matty Cash, who's a fullback, is a decent player. And then Sancho is still our player. Everybody, do you remember Sancho? He's still our player, and he can't play in this game for that reason. So, left-hand side then, that's what FootMob have put out as the predicted lineup, and then the right-hand side is Villa. So we'll start on our side then. So in goals, I'm sure there's no argument with Le Mans in goals. It's been steady, been solid, safe pair of hands, can catch a ball. Fantastic stuff. Mazraoui, I don't know if he'll start because obviously I said he was limping in that last game, but it's got him as potential starting here. I wouldn't argue too much. There is Dalot, which I would expect Dalot to come back in to things, to be fair. Yoro there, obviously had a couple of mistakes over the last sort of few games, but does he get another chance? Maguire, he's got to play for me. He's been solid. Not the quickest, as we keep saying, but he's got to play for me. And then Shaw, on the left-hand side, I'm expecting to play. I know he'd sort of come off and they were talking about illness. I'm not sure if he's recovered. And then in the centre there, Mena and Casemiro. I've said before in the last sort of videos and shows that they just need to get a little bit closer together. I think Casemiro's sort of abandoning the midfield a lot of the time to go and score a goal. I think they just need to be a little bit closer together to sort of tighten things up, especially when we've lost in that last game. I think we just need to be solid to begin with in those sort of first sort of 10, 15, 20 minutes and then see what Villa have got in regards to attack. But we do need to be going for the juggler because Villa haven't been great, as you can see with the results. Then Cunha over there on the left-hand side, and like I say, he doesn't really stay wide, he cuts in. And Mbeumo and Burmo on the right-hand side, Bruno as a number 10, and then Sesko up top. So I don't know, what do you guys think? I don't know if I would argue too much with that starting lineup if it was to be that. Again, there's always an argument whether Ahmad comes in for somebody. Does he swap with Burmo or does he swap with Cunha? And Burmo's been a little bit off it. Wasn't overly happy when that nice threaded pass that went through to him from Bruno. And he sort of messed about with it. And he's left-footed. He could have just swiveled and shot with his left. It was very strange. But if we can get Burmo firing again, he's going to be key for us getting in that European spot for me. We've got to have a firing Burmo, we've got to have a firing Cunha, a firing Bruno. We definitely have to have that. On the right-hand side there, I'm not going to spend too much time on Villa. Martinez in goals. So, yes, he was someone that we was looking at to bring in, but we brought Le Mans in instead. I'm happy with that overall. Then you've got our old boy on the right there, Lindelof. He's played pretty well for Villa, to be fair, since he's been there. Then you've got Concert and Mings. I haven't seen Mings for ages, actually. I don't know if he's been injured. Maatsen, he was at Chelsea, pretty decent player, fullback, gets forward quite well. You've got Louise, that went to Juve for a bit, didn't seem to work out there, and he's come back to Villa. Onana, very strong. Not that Onana. I wish it was that Onana playing there, because we'd definitely win. But no, it's Onana that can actually play football. Yeah, there's been times where it looked like he might have come to Manchester United. I don't know if that ship's probably sailed now. And then Bailey, I believe he's a childhood Manchester United fan on there on the right-hand side. Buendia is known for wonder strikes, so you've got to watch him. And Rodgers the same, wonder strikes. And Watkins, decent striker there. And again, another one that was linked to us in the summer, but we went for Sesko instead. So, as we're saying there, if anybody has any comments on that, would you go with Sesko up top again? Yeah, I mean, didn't get much chances against Newcastle, really. I've liked the way he's been playing. Obviously, he's come on as sub a lot of the times more recently and got his goals. Yeah, I really like his development at the moment. And I'd probably go with putting him up top, giving Villa something to think about, being able to just pass that ball into somebody. So, yeah, I'd probably go with that. And I suppose the only other argument is whether you would start Ahmad over somebody. But I'd be pretty happy to go with that. But what do you guys think? Right then. So, yeah, getting towards the end now. And we've got to do the big one now. And this is where I want you guys to come in, anybody that's watching. The big one. And the big one is score prediction. Let's put that on there. Score prediction. What are we thinking, guys? We've lost against Newcastle 10 men, 2-1. But we've had a good run under Carrick since he's come in. Villa, as you can see there, very, very patchy sort of performances. Very patchy sort of results there. It's a bit hit and miss. They have got some players sort of slowly coming back. McGinn's going to be quite a key player for them. I do believe he's like captain for them. And he probably is a big miss. You never know what you're going to get with Emre. Decent coach. They have been good in terms of scoring goals from outside the box. Buendia and your Rodgers, for example, got to watch them. They're like their key men. Good goalkeeper there in Martinez. So what do we think, guys? Do we think we can do this one? So for anybody that's still watching, give you a couple of seconds or two to put your score predictions in. Come on, tell me what score you think it is. And if you can't put a score, tell me if it's going to be win, lose, or draw. What are we thinking? Come on, what are we thinking? Let's give you a second or two. What are we thinking? So, yes, it's could easily be quite a tight game, potentially. Obviously, I think we generally do pretty well against Villa. We've always done pretty well at their place, to be fair, but they did beat us there this season. And again, it's always, I mean, football doesn't work in that manner where, because they've lost, maybe not the last game, they've got another game, haven't they, before us, have they? Oh no, they played last night, didn't they? Yeah. So it doesn't work in the sense, though, because, they lost the last game in the Premier League, let's say that we're going to beat them, or if we've beat a team and then that team we've beats them, doesn't mean that we're going to then go and beat them. So football doesn't work like that, especially this season anyway. It's been hard to call at times, to be honest. But I'm going to go with, and if nobody dares say the score or whether we're going to win, lose, or draw, I'm going to go with, it'll be positive, 2-1. That's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with 2-1. I think that I think this team, hopefully, and I think Carrick, hopefully, and the coaching staff are going to be chomping at the bit for this one. They're at home. They're going to do it for the mothers. And they're going to win on Sunday. And it's going to be 2-1. And I just think after that loss, you're going to really want to change things. They've got their, obviously, one eye, two eyes, one hand, whatever you want to call it, on those sort of Champions League spots. I don't think there's an option other than to get one of those Champions League spots from this position now. It'll be an absolute disaster if we were to start to slip out of this position now. Obviously, Villa are on our tails. If Villa win this, they leapfrog us and they get their third position back, which they've held for a bit, actually. If we win, we then get that sort of 3 points cushion ahead of Villa. Hopefully, if the results don't go well for like your Chelsea's, for example, and your Liverpool's, it gives us a bit more breathing space above them as well. So in a way, I know there's no cups or anything like that, but in a way, there's a lot riding on it to a certain extent, because when you're in this sort of mini battle, let's call it, of top 4, top 5, if you can beat one of those other teams that are vying for those positions, it's as people call it, it's like double points in a sense, really. So you're able to sort of slow that team down, but also gain ahead of them at the same time in a way. So always a good one to win when you're doing those head-to-heads. And yeah, it's like a 6-pointer in a sense, and it's a psychological thing sometimes as well. So that's my score prediction, 2-1. Anybody that's watching or people that watch this later on, please put your score predictions in. It'll be interesting to see what you're thinking. Have you lost confidence in Carrick? Do you think it's just a bit of a blip, a short blip? Do you think we're going to come back? Is he going to bounce back? Have we lost that new coach bounce, or is it just a bit of a blip? Let's see. But as always, please like the video, because that's really important as well. Please share. Always put that bell notification on as well so you don't miss anything. But more importantly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's free, doesn't cost a thing. It just helps the channel grow, and that's all it's doing. It's just your support to the channel. So as always, thank you for watching Dan Talks United. I will see you again live after the game against Villa on Sunday. So I will see you there, people. Peace!